She stood on my porch, phone in hand, screaming like I had committed a crime. "Your daughter trespassed on HOA property," she shouted, her voice echoing through the cul-de-sac. My 13-year-old girl was just sitting on the swing eating ice cream. That was all she did. But to Karen, that was apparently a federal offense. I kept calm while every neighbor peeked through their blinds like it was a live TV drama. Karen's face was red, her fake pearl necklace trembling as she yelled, "I called the cops. She's going to juvenile detention for this." My daughter looked terrified, her eyes glossy with tears. "Sweetheart, go inside," I said gently. Then I turned back to Karen. "You sure you want to do that?" I asked. She smirked. "Oh, I'm very sure. The HOA doesn't allow outsiders here, especially kids who don't belong." That line hit harder than she expected. Outsiders? We'd owned this house for 5 years. Paid every bill, maintained every inch of our land, and we weren't even part of her HOA. She never checked. 5 minutes later, the flashing blue and red lights rolled in. 2 officers stepped out, already confused, since Karen had reported it as a property invasion. She ran toward them before they could shut their car doors. "That's the one," she yelled, pointing straight at me. "And his daughter." "Arrest them before they escape." I could have laughed if it wasn't so ridiculous. The officers approached calmly, hands on their belts. "Sir, can we talk for a second?" one asked. "Sure," I said with a polite smile. "But you might want to hear the full story first." Karen folded her arms. "There's no story. They broke HOA law." I tilted my head and took a slow breath. "Karen," I said quietly, "you might want to stop talking before you dig yourself deeper. You really don't know who you're talking to." She scoffed. "Oh, please. Don't start with that 'do you know who I am' nonsense. You're just another homeowner who thinks rules don't apply." I stepped closer, meeting her eyes. "You're half right," I said calmly. "Rules do apply, but you're about to find out whose rules really matter." Her expression twisted in confusion. The officers looked uncertain, trying to understand what the supposed crime was. Neighbors were filming from their porches. The air felt heavy, like a storm waiting to break. Then Karen said the one thing that changed everything. "If the cops don't arrest you," she snapped, "I'll have the HOA board file charges myself." I smiled slowly. "Good," I said. "Because when this goes to court, I'll be the one sitting on the bench." Her smirk vanished. What do you mean?" she stammered. I nodded toward the officers. "You might want to check my name again. It's on your county courthouse wall." The officers glanced at each other, realization dawning. Karen, for the first time ever, went silent. The entire street froze with her. The officer cleared his throat. Sir, Judge Miller, right?" I gave a short nod. "That's right." Karen's eyes widened. "You're lying. You're not a judge," she stuttered, trembling between disbelief and panic. I raised an eyebrow. "You sure you want to double down on that?" She looked around desperately for support, but no one spoke. The same neighbors she bossed around every week were now quietly recording her downfall. The officer turned to her. "Ma'am, you said this man and his daughter were trespassing. Did you verify the property lines?" Karen hesitated. I don't have to. This is HOA property. The park belongs to us." The second officer frowned and checked his tablet. "Actually, according to county records, this swing set and lot belonged to Judge Miller's property." "It's outside the HOA boundary." Karen froze. "No, that's not possible." "The HOA map says." "You mean the fake map you printed from that Facebook group you run?" I interrupted softly. Her jaw dropped. "How do you—" "Karen," I said, stepping closer. "I deal with evidence for a living. You'd be surprised how many things are public record." Her face turned pale. She realized she'd been caught pretending to have authority she didn't. Then came the final twist. The officer's radio crackled. "Unit 42, be advised. HOA President Karen Langford has 2 pending citations under Code Violation 18.3A for resident harassment." "Repeat, 2 active citations." Karen froze in place. "What? That's impossible." The officer looked at her firmly. "Ma'am, you might want to stop talking." This could escalate, but she didn't stop. She lunged forward, pointing at me. "He's manipulating everyone. He's abusing his position. He's corrupt." I stayed calm. "I don't need to manipulate anyone," I said quietly. "You called the cops on a child sitting on her own swing. And now you've made false claims to law enforcement. That's a federal offense if I decide to file it that way." The street went dead silent. Even the birds stopped singing. Karen's face shifted from rage to fear. "You wouldn't," she whispered. I took one slow step forward. "Try me." She stumbled backward, tripping over her own garden edging. Her phone slipped from her hand, landing on the grass, still recording. I leaned slightly, voice low but clear enough for everyone to hear. "Next time, Karen," I said, "maybe check whose door you're knocking on before you call the cops." She stood frozen, her entire world collapsing in front of her neighbors. The woman who once strutted around with her HOA clipboard now looked small, powerless. Her phone kept recording, capturing every second of her humiliation. One officer picked it up and handed it back. "Ma'am, you might want to end the recording," he said quietly. "You've caused enough trouble today." But her hands were shaking too much to take it. I looked at my daughter watching from the window, still frightened. I smiled softly and motioned for her to come out. She hesitated, then stepped outside, clutching her ice cream stick like a tiny sword. "Daddy, am I in trouble?" she whispered. I knelt beside her. "No, sweetheart. You did nothing wrong. Some people just don't understand what real rules mean." The officer turned back to me. "Sir, would you like to press charges for harassment or false reporting?" Karen gasped. "You can't be serious." I thought for a moment. Every part of me wanted to end it right there. But all the neighbors were watching, and they needed to see that justice doesn't always come from anger. "No," I said finally. "Let the record show she made a false report. That's enough. But if she ever comes near my family again, I'll file it myself." The officer nodded. "Understood, Judge Miller." Karen tried to speak, but her voice cracked. "You can't just, I cut her off gently but firmly. "Karen, I fight real battles in federal court every day. What you're doing, harassing families, pretending to have power, that ends today." The officers guided her back toward her driveway as she muttered through tears. The crowd began to disperse. My daughter looked up at me. "Daddy, why was she so mean?" I smiled faintly and brushed her hair aside. "Because some people think control makes them powerful," I said. "But real power is knowing when not to use it." She nodded softly, finally understanding. As the patrol car drove away, Karen sat on her porch steps, holding her phone, humiliated and silent. The woman who once ruled the neighborhood with threats now sat defeated. I wrapped my arm around my daughter's shoulders as the sunset painted the sky gold and orange. Before stepping inside, I glanced back once more and whispered, "Justice doesn't always need a gavel. Sometimes it just needs the truth." From that day on, the HOA never bothered us again. Not a single letter, not a single knock, because everyone finally knew the judge lived right next door. The end.